to get to open my eyes just a little bit, right? Through the tears, through all the tears that were falling down to the ground, um, I got to see that I was levitating. I was not touching the ground. And right there, I knew I was so grateful because I knew, and this is the part that always gets to me. I knew what this divine energy was doing to me, and it had. I felt so privileged that it had lowered to come and meet me where I was.
I'm happy to have Vanessa Vega with me today. In early 2017, Vanessa navigated a tumultuous phase in her life, which led to a profound spiritually transformative experience that also brought life altering insight about two previous other near death experiences. A first one at the early age of 18 months old, and a second one at the age of 16. This profound moment inspired her to reshape her path and document her experiences. Through her writing, Vanessa sheds light on the deep wisdom she unearthed during her spiritually transformative experience. Vanessa, thank you so much for being my guest today. I'm really excited to meet you and have this conversation.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation and very happy to be here and excited. So thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you. And so your most profound experience of your life isn't even your near-death experiences, even though you had two. You had a spiritually transformative experience that transformed your life and also made you understand what happened earlier. Tell me about what
Correct.
happened.
Well, I all had come down, as you said, and you read, to this moment in 2017 where all my life was, I felt like all my life was being tested. Everything, every aspect of my life. You see, I was an overachiever. Yeah, everything I set myself up to do, I would conquer. But once I was there, I felt uh, unfulfilled and unsatisfied. And then everything collapsed. And once again, I sprung up and I rebuilt myself over and over again. All my life, I've been struggling like this all the time and not feeling good enough. Okay. Uh, and so, and that comes, and I have to say, it comes from a difficult upbringing. Okay. From my difficult upbringing. And later on, I understood the relevance, right, of this into my path, to my spiritual path. Uh, but definitely, everything had come to this point, and this day in particular, as every day, I prayed. I prayed in the morning. This was a Friday morning, early in March of 2017, and I was in my bed before getting up. I started to pray, but this time something changed in me because I was very anxious. I had been suffering from anxiety, major depression and anxiety for 15 years. uh, and life was testing me this time, big time. I had touched ground and I had lost all faith in myself. And so I decided I would surrender when praying. And I said it. I actually said the words. Okay. I said, I surrender any control. I don't want to control anything else. I don't want to make another decision in my life. And I won't move here until being guided. I asked for the help. And just like that, when I said those magic words, I was emotionally charged at that moment. I was crying. Um, but when I said that, immediately, this energy, like a lightning bolt, had struck me. Uh, and I knew, just knowing who this was, it struck me, and I felt my body was trembling. I was hyperventilating, and I heard this powerful but loving and accepting voice that told me, Vanessa, throw yourself to the ground. I want to speak to you. And so, without even processing, right? Because I knew, because of the what I felt, right? And I heard the voice, a male voice, like we're speaking right now. Uh, say those words. I threw myself to the ground with my hands to my knees and hands to the floor. And while this was going on, all the questions in my head that I had ever had about universal truths and things that we things like what happens when we die, what happens, what's the purpose of life, why do we incarnate here, uh, everything was being downloaded into my consciousness. Uh, and all this process, okay, all this process, I felt my body was trembling. As I was hyperventilating, I felt like my guts were being sucked out of my, I couldn't breathe. So I was sobbing, and I didn't even dare to lift my head up. I was like I felt a lot of reverence, and I was being like humbled, and yet I feel very minuscule in front of this energy, right? Uh, but at the same time, I have to say that um, I felt very privileged and and grateful to beyond words. I cannot, because of the energy I was receiving from this loving energy, this total acceptance onto the state that I was in, and not judgmental at all. Uh, and he was explaining, answering all these questions that I had from the situations that I was living at that time. But at the same time, all these universal truths were coming into my consciousness just by being in contact with this energy, with this divine energy. And actually, it hurt. I felt pain in my body when this was going on. And I knew that I was being cleansed. I knew I was being, bless you, I knew I was being cleansed from the inside out, from all the toxicity, the accumulation and hoarding that I had done, from all the emotional pain that I had gone through during my whole life. And I had been, and I was very aware that I had been accumulating up to this date all this low vibration, frustration, anger, resentment, a lot of things, some lack of love for myself. Uh, I had been accumulating all that low, and this energy was cleansing me from my inside out. I knew that. And so as all this was going on, and I was sobbing, and I felt so overwhelmed with this energy, um, it got to a point that I got to get to open my eyes just a little bit, right? Through the tears, through all the tears that were falling down to the ground, um, I got to see that I was levitating. I was not touching the ground. And right there, I knew I was so grateful because I knew, and this is the part that always gets to me. I knew what this divine energy was doing to me, and it had. I felt so privileged that it had lowered to come and meet me where I was. And it was an unexplainable and unfathomable. You can just, because here I was uh, embodied, right? I had not died. So feeling all this energy while being embodied, and you're not in your energetic form, because when we die, we are in that pure form, and we're able to process that kind of energy better. I've come to know this because we are in the same state, energetic state, as this divine. But when we are embodied, our soul is tethered together, right? And so feeling all this coming through your body can be very, very overwhelming, right? It's energy that you cannot explain. I was experiencing what's called what I know now it was ecstasy, total ecstasy. Uh, and I felt that my consciousness was being open to all these answers and all these universal truths. Uh, and I just knew, just by being in contact with this energy, I had that all that knowledge to my avail. And it was totally I just was in awe, right? And up to this day still, uh, every time I explain people, right, and I talk about this, it was incredible, incredible. And I didn't and it lasted for a long, long time, because I was there for 2 hours receiving all this vibration, all this cleansing. That's how bad I was at that moment. Uh, and so I didn't want it to end. That was the other thing. It was the same experience as when people have NDEs that they say they don't want to come back. I didn't want also to come back from this experience. I didn't want it to end. I wanted to stay there. Uh, that's how ecstatic I was, and and felt so good. Basically, nothing else existed uh, at that moment. Time stood still for me, uh, and I was totally blessed, honestly. So what happened was, immediately after all these 2 hours passed, and I was saddened because it finished. Eh, but I was in awe, right? So I immediately noticed that I felt a peace, total peace and calmness inside, an inner peace. Eh, all that anxiety had been turned off like a switch. So I experienced spontaneous healing. That's what immediately I drank pills. Before, previous to this, I had to drink pills for anxiety. I had to drink pills to sleep. I had depression also, so I had to drink pills for that too. I was totally medicated, and now I didn't feel nothing. It was nothing, anything at all. So just like a switch, like that, and still to this day, from that day on, I never again drank a pill. I threw away everything. Eh, Never again, because before this I felt very lonely, very alone in my path, and I felt very lost. And I knew at that moment that I had never been alone. Eh, and now I had this companion, right? Eh, that I could turn to at any moment. And I knew that I could connect, right? I could connect to this energy, and I always felt I was guided. I was being guided since that day and on, nonstop. So I would go to sleep every day after that, and every night from there on, it has been what I call guided. I was put into a spiritual boot camp, what I call a spiritual boot camp, and from there on, I knew I was being guided, totally guided. Because you see, in those conversations, I was given instructions on to what things I needed to to do, and I was told that this was happening because I was gonna be a catalyst in others people's lives, so that miracles would happen in their life, just as they had happened for me. So uh, this energy inspired me, right? Inspired me into this spiritual, and I opened totally. I said yes to everything I was being told that I needed to do, and I accepted my path, and I accepted from that day. And actually, there was a death because who I was has never been more, does not exist. And that's the true death that we undergo. Death does not exist as we perceive it. This is the death. When we transform in the way that I have, who I was before that day died, does not exist anymore. And so, since that day, I've been inspired, right, and guided into all this knowledge. And I would go to sleep, and they would wake me up at 3 in the morning every day, and told me to write everything. And so I downloads of all kinds of knowledge of quantum physics, astrology, numerology, uh, and I knew I was being taught about the connectedness, right, that everything has, and how uh, the true nature, the true nature and make of the divine. And clearly I was awakening to that truth, because up to this date I had believed things in a total different way. I was brought up with a Christian background, and things, and it's not that that's bad, it was good, it set me in a good path, okay, in life, but it was not all the truth. And I could see how we uh, our perspective, right, and how our environment and the things that we are shaped into, how we believe things to be, and how we attach, emotionally attach to that, affects what we create, what we live every single day. And the relevance of our emotional attachments, more than thought. This was surprising, because we always hear, right, we always hear people talking about how important it is to change our thought processes, and transform our thoughts. And yes, it's not that it's not important, okay, don't get me wrong, but it was explained to me that emotional attachment is what ends up sealing the deal of what we create. So if we are hoarding all these type of emotions, like the ones that I was hoarding, right, and I had been accumulating without releasing them for so long, this low vibration was damaging my body and my life, because I was attracting, I was magnetizing towards me all this that I was carrying inside. But if I cleaned that, that's why if I cleansed all that toxicity, things would be different. So, and that in itself impacted then my thought pattern. Because if I was feeling this way and these emotions, well, then my thought pattern wasn't going to be a good one. It wasn't going to be a good one either, because it was a product of those hoarded energies, okay? Those hoarded vibrational frequencies that I was, and also then in a domino effect, my decision making, which was based on my thought pattern, was not going to be the best either. So everything ends up affecting our life, and we end up reliving these cycles of suffering, right? Over and over again, because we're not aware that we have these traumas, and we all have them, okay? It doesn't matter what type of upbringing you've had. Some haven't, to different levels. Okay, we all have them to different types of intensities, okay? And and how important it was for us to face, not run away from our emotions, okay? Face our emotions, because our emotions were the only common grounds between the physical and the spiritual, meaning that uh, they are the only ones experienced on both sides. We don't experience thought on the spiritual realm. We experience emotions. We experience, and basically the emotion of where the divine is vibrating in in is love. And love is an emotion. It's not a thought. Okay, so how relevant was for mankind to transform, alchemize, right? These and purge these emotional frequencies, and that we had come here basically to grow, to overcome those energies, those vibrations, because we were learning to turn them, to transform them into love, release them and transform them into love, convert them into love. And that's what we do each time we overcome hard times in our life. And this is the that life, they showed me that the life, truly life, is all about the purposes of the soul, and not of the purposes of the identity we carry. Eh, because truly the identity we carry is the experience that the soul chooses, that will bring all this knowledge, all this growth of the light, of the amount of the purity of our light, or our consciousness is the same thing, and the vibrational frequency, which is love, the amount of love, okay? And how we transform emotionally all that, because what differs the divine from us is basically that we have a plethora, as you know, of emotion. We have a plethora, but divine only vibrates to this one emotion of love. There's no there's no anger, there's no attachment. He doesn't have any attachment. Okay, there's no attachment. We do. We attach emotionally to all these low frequencies, and with that, what we do unconsciously, obviously, uh, is create what we end up living. So the soul incarnates to learn and grow in its purity of its light and of its vibration, because the divine is always constantly growing. So we are expressions. Divine is expressed in every atom that exists, okay? Which is the building block of the universal building block, right? So divine is in there, in every, in, in spirit. The spirit of the divine is in each atom. And we are made of that. That's our divine material. And how energy was so relevant in human life, and that we needed to understand the language of energy, because it has a fixed language. And so I was taught and guided to understand all this through universal law. I was guided to They guided me every night. And so I went to sleep, and in the morning I knew more. And every night I would know more and more and more and more. And the more I opened to these conversations, because I did not only during my sleep, but then when I woke up, I kept these divine conversations kept on going. And so I was explained all this knowledge and insight, and how I was to apply it in my life. So they started with me, right? Putting everything. So I started doing and opening up to all this, to being guided and taught, and how they showed me the relevance of knowing our uh, energetic centers, right? The chakras, and the importance, and how consciousness connects, how biology and energy connect, how it manifests, how energy manifests, or divine energy manifests into physical form and enters into our biology through our blood plasma. And, and because blood plasma, which people, I say, well, maybe she's crazy, but this is what I've been explained, and now I know, and now I know that our blood plasma is, that blood plasma has this yellowish tone to it, right? Well, it has luminosity because it has gamma rays in it. So it is the spirit. We can say literally, consciousness enters our body through the plasma in our blood. And how I was explained also that it's not, water, an element that people, most of us, and I included, thought all the time that, if you asked me previous to this, I thought, if you asked me who created water, well, God did. I always ask. That's how I have been taught, right? And well, I was surprised, because the Bible, they use the Bible a lot to explain all this to me. And I was surprised when I was shown Genesis, right? Verses 1, 1, 1, 1 to 3. And it says, the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. And they showed me that spirit, the word spirit, is analogous to energy. That's what it is. It is the igniting force. You see, it's like the there, like idea, and it has to do with um, more than a thought. It's an idea, an inspirational idea, an imagination, which sparks life. And this is what consciousness has. And when we have light, that is what the divine is, light. light has consciousness in it. And I was shown how, I was explained and taught about how through the atoms, through atoms, we have the spirit in that positive energy, and how water, right, existed. So because energy's best conduit is water. And so it needed to be there for the spark of life. And that's why water is an element that is so for life to be there. Otherwise, you know that wherever water is, life is also. We need that. So, and that's because of the conductivity needed to be there. And that's why we are born out of water also. In our mother's womb, the avatar, the baby, right, the fetus is floating in the amniotic fluid, right? And that amniotic fluid is made out of the mother's plasma. So, and the avatar needs to be there so that the soul can ignite, okay, the conductivity of the energetic body, which is the soul, can be all that information, all that consciousness that the soul already has, enters can enter the body properly. Okay. And that's why also it is a shock for babies when they are born, because from being in this vibration, right, being in this vibration, they come to a dry element where they're very connected. While they are in the womb, they're very connected to the divine. And when they come out, now the parents, right, the parents, we as parents, get into and take control, right? We take control. But while the baby is being prepared, right, uh, we have no control over that process. And actually, I was explained also how all this consciousness, right, is in every atom, because the atom doesn't need to be told with what it needs to bond with in order to create all the elements of the periodic table. Nobody tells that. So all the elements of the periodic table were created because the atoms know, without being commanded, with what they need to join, with what they need to bond with, to do oxygen, to create nitrogen, to create all the 118 elements of the periodic table. And from that, right? So everything that exists comes from those 118 elements, is made up of that. And so this same consciousness is that in biology, right? In bioenergy, um, is in the sperm. Nobody tells the sperm what he needs to do. Nobody is conducting. There's nothing to prove that the brain is giving these instructions. Okay, they are totally uncommanded. They know what they have that job. They know what they have to do, and they go for that. At the moment of conception, what happens is that once the sperm fertilizes the ovum, right? Um, which I didn't know, the ovum sparks immediately in light. It lights up literally. And you can watch these videos because science has found that out now, recently, I would say. And I say it is to remind us from where we come, because we are live, we are light. beings manifested into form. Eh, so this consciousness is already within every atom, every element, every mineral that composes everything that exists. So the divine showed me, right, how important it was for us to understand that we are all divine beings. And it was because we don't truly see that divinity within us, that we don't use that virtue that we are blessed with, to our highest. We think and believe that we are incapable of using that potentiality to its highest level. And so we attach ourselves, and we template, right, the behaviors. We copy and paste the template, use the template that everybody uses. And so we learn fast to how our environment and our upbringing shapes us into believing a lot of things, especially things about our own selves and our, let's say, not this, well, I would say not disability, but because we all are able, I would say more like, because I have efficiencies and deficiencies. I would say deficiencies, and we tend from there on we live life putting more emphasis and focus on those deficiencies instead of our efficiencies. And by doing that, because we are emotionally attached to whatever things we have lived, right, we learn to react in life instead of responding. And the power we have to choose, because we were given free will, in every situation, we become powerful when we choose, uh, to stay true to our divine nature. When we choose to stay true to our low emotional attachments, and we fall into that, there we start to fall and fail in what we create. Okay, so it takes a lot of compromise, I know, because we're human. Okay, and how we are to embrace those lessons that the soul chose, right, to grow from and expand from. Eh, because as I was told, Vanessa, I need you to be pristine because you compose me. You are part of me. And if you are not taking care of your vibration, you're not taking care of me. I cannot grow. You help me grow when you grow, because you contribute to my energy field. And I'm always growing, okay? But if you choose not to, you're not helping me. And and also you're not contributing that to the energetic field, to everybody. So I need you to be in ops and see and embrace the lessons behind, so that you can shine your light to its purest, to its highest potential. And so I started to work on myself, obviously, and to embrace my spiritual purpose, let's say, and embrace all this knowledge about science and bring them together, bring spirituality and science, although we've seen them always like, like enemies and being opposites, right? They've always spoken about the same thing in different language, because everything is one, everything is divine. and everything collaborates with each other, so that we are always helping each other, and everything is collaborating. The earth collaborates with us. We just are not using those tools to our highest potential. And this is the language that we need to start speaking and align with, so that we can create a better world, right? A better life for ourselves, and heal, heal, and learn to release and let go, which not attached to, let go, release, and keep on going forward. Eh, because we were the ones that end up complicating our lives and causing all the demises that we end up living. We're and falling into those, cycles, on uh, that don't end, right? Endless cycles, uh, that we so much want to end, but then we don't know that because we are holding on to things that don't serve us, and vibrational frequencies that don't serve us anymore, and that we're meant to grow and overcome, we keep on living in the cycles, and also it ends up causing all diseases and illnesses, because the body doesn't get ill because of our genetics, okay? It's not because everything starts, and I was giving like a 13th, let's say a 13th universal law, because there are 12 of them, but I was told that key here was to understand that in the physical realm, in order to reach, for us to reach the truth, the desires that we do want to end up living, right? All those things, positive things that we need to address first, the root cause. And the root cause, because we had to go back to the fundamental, which is energy. And because we always focus on the outside, not in the fundamental where everything starts, right? And because energy is our fundamental, our most fundamental and pure nature, when we're addressing that, we're addressing the issue, the core, the root cause. Because our energy manifests into energy in motion, emotions. And so when we are addressing, what we are doing always is addressing results all the time. And so we're band-aiding. We're putting band-aids all the time in our life, and we're not addressing the root cause. But when we start to pay attention to our emotional states and our triggers, we are going to see that we become more spiritual. We are being more emotionally aware, so we are more spiritually aware. Also, we become more spiritually aware, and because awareness is not thought. Awareness comes into when we're in the spiritual realm. The awareness is more about a knowing. It is a knowing. There's no thought process. You just know. It is a certainty. It has a certainty to it. It's undeniable. Okay, not so thought. Thought is not like that. Thought undergoes a process, a reasoning process, but knowing does not. And there is a huge difference. And to know is to feel, has to do more with feeling, with what you feel and you sense, not because, emotions are the ones that transform us in life. We can have a lot of thoughts, but what you feel is what changes us, definitely. And thought does not have that amount of power as feelings do. And so, awareness has more to do about, it's about awareness has to do with emotions and feelings and senses, what we feel. It's like the little, like that they showed me, they brought to my, like when we were little, we had all that curiosity of putting the finger inside the electrical socket. And although our mothers tell us all the time, no, you don't do that, but you have curiosity, right, of the child, uh, always wonders why does she tell me not to do that? And I'm curious what happens, and we put our finger in. And once we put our finger in, because you feel it, you feel the shock, right? The electrical shock that comes. Now I know. And that is a knowing. That is not a and because you felt, and now you were transformed, because now you know, you're not going to put your finger in there anymore. So there's a difference, a huge difference, from what we believe. Beliefs comes from the outside, and thoughts come from the outside, while knowing, and which is analog to wisdom, comes from within us. We just know. You see, what I have been exposed to, that's what happened to me when I underwent contact with energy, this powerful energy, right? uh, i cannot I cannot undo that anymore. So I cannot unlearn what I've learned, what I've been exposed to the all the knowledge and knowing that I have now. I cannot go back. So that's why I say the person I was died. There was a death. Eh, as it's like learning to drive, right? Once you learn to drive, how can we unlearn? How can we unlearn to do it, right? You cannot go back. So, yes, there is a difference between learning, like learning that we get in school and college and all that, and the learning that is felt, experienced, and that stays with us and transforms us, because it comes with an emotional charge to it. It's very different, extremely different. And so, I'm still, right. I understood how the body has the capability, and always has had the capability of healing itself, just but because we don't trust in it, right? We don't understand how it works, how it has all this divinity within it. We are used to, although we don't, we know that all our organs collaborate for the well-being of the whole, right? And nobody instructs it what to do, although people think it's the brain. Yes, the brain is a processor of, again, it's a processor of the energy that we have within, in connection with with the outside field. And so, we have in every atom that same divine intelligence. I call it AI, authentic intelligence, not authentic intelligence. We were imprinted We were given that. And how I was told that the divine wants us to understand that we are divine, that we need to connect with our divinity, with the divinity within us. And from all this information, I also I understood my life like backward, masking it, right? I went back and understood my life, and every single thing that had been negative until that point, I could see the purpose, the huge purpose for the soul behind it. And I felt all this gratitude, right, for it in my life. It gave purpose and meaning to every single thing that I had not understood that had happened, because I have lived a lot of difficult, right, difficult things. Eh, but how all this that I had lived was empowering me uh, to make from my mess my message, and help others understand and overcome their own, mess. But I could understand, and that's where I became aware of this other two NDEs that I had. One at the young age of 18 months, where I choked with a diaper clamp, metal clamp. I am almost 58 years old, and at those times they used the cloth diapers, and they used like a metal clamp, much like something. They were little, but they were something like this, like a hair clamp, metal, but like an, I would say, half an inch big. And my mother was changing me, and the she got distracted with the phone. The phone rang. No cellulars at that at those times, so she went to attend the phone, pick it up, and I turned around and I grabbed the clamp, and I choked with it. So when my mother came over, I was literally blue black. And so from she started she grabbed me by my feet, my legs, and my ankles, and she started shaking me and shaking me and shaking me, and so I was turning blue, and they put me in the car and took me to the ambulance. uh, and so at the hospital, uh, they got to I I vomited the clamp. And but all this, I was this was brought to my consciousness so that I would know and understand that all the time I had been, since that early contact, I had been already in contact with the other side. And that because of that, I had been exposed. I, as a child, had a lot of I dreamt a lot. Dreams for me have been very, very important, and I astral travel in my dreams, and received a lot of information, but I thought this was I discarded it as dreaming. I thought everybody dreamt in the same way I did. Eh, I used to have these adventures where I saw literally myself floating. So I had like obese, my soul, right? I saw where I was floating. I separated from my body, and I saw myself sleeping all the time. But I left, and then I saw all these things happening in the world. Okay, difficult things. Okay, difficult things, and so when all that adventure that I had ended, I felt myself falling again, dropping into my body again. And then I woke up, and this was very constant with me when I was a child. But I thought that everybody dreamt in that same way. Um, so I didn't know. I was I was an empath. I was an empath. Eh, and so I understood, and a lot of other psychic things that had happened to me while being a child, uh, and a teenager also. And I never understood. I just discarded it as, normal, uh, normal things in my life. And I thought everybody was like that. And I didn't give it any, that never told no one, right? And so at the age of 16, I had another near death experience that I was explained. And this one was I was in a river in Dominican Republic in vacation with my family. And we were going upstream river. We were going up a waterfalls. And we were like about we had gone up river like about four waterfalls. And at that fourth one, I stood up on the top of the bank of the river and on top of a rock, and a strong current came and knocked me down, and it threw me like 10 feet down the waterfall. And so as I was struggling with the current, which was very strong, and trying to compose myself to compose myself to be able to swim, because I knew how to swim, but the current was so strong and powerful that I couldn't compose my body. And so I was drinking a lot of, breathing a lot of water. And as this was going on, there's where I started to see myself, my flashes of my life, of all my life since I was a kid, flashing like, I don't know if you know about those viewfinders. Is it like you flash? It was an old toy that we used to have. Well, I saw flashes and flashes of my life, uh, like a live review, right, flashing in front of me. Um, and then uh, that's basically what happened. I could get a hold, and finally I could breathe. Uh, so those experiences I lived, but I never told anybody about them. I knew about them, but I never shared what had happened. I always wondered, what had exactly happened. What was that? Uh, and so I kept on discarding all this. Uh, and and so all this knowledge and all this knowing, right, was brought to me so that I would understand and connect the dots back, and would understand my life in a better place, in a better way, and from a better place, like connecting all those thoughts and giving purpose, so that I would see the purpose behind everything I had experienced, uh, as a child, as a teenager, and then as an adult. Because this STE I was 51 years old when this happened. So a lot had happened in my life up to this point. And so I was guided to understand, and then they started leveling me up as I kept on opening, leveling me up, and what people know as ascending, right? I would say, and testing me to see if the knowledge that was being shared with me, I was truly applying it and was mastering it, right, in my own life. And the first test, I would say, was right after, few months after having the STE. I had Puerto Rico was hit with by Hurricane Maria. I don't know if you remember and it was disastrous. I mean, this was, if I had not lived and gone through that healing, I would have never survived this experience. Eh, and I could see immediately, from my experience with Maria, how significantly I had been changed, transformed, because I passed that test with flying with you flying colors. Eh, Definitely, yes. Very traumatic, very but I handle it. I still surprise. I am in awe of how I handle it emotionally and how I composed myself during 4 months, because this uh, hurricane, electricity power didn't come back, at least in my home, until January 10th, and the hurricane was September 20th. So, and all the things that brought financially to my business at the time. I have been an entrepreneur for 30 years almost now, and not being able to work, not knowing, right, how I was gonna live. And I have a lot of financial compromises, and responsibilities. I have two children also, and so and I'm a single mom. But all this was relevant, definitely, and how I during the even during the process, and I had to leave my home. My home was very affected by the hurricane. All these windows were literally sucked out, yeah, broken, and a lot. I have a lot of glass in my house, and so yes, it was terrible. And so I had to leave Puerto Rico, and I left in a cruise that came from Royal Caribbean, that came to rescue and take people out. And the whole experience was surreal experience, honestly, because there were a like 3,000 people boarding. It was desperate. Everyone wanted to leave the island at this time, and we were privileged enough to get to board after 6 hours of trying to board there. It was, and just seeing, watching everything. And I always say, I people with animals, even with their pets, all kinds of animals. And I felt also like if I was boarding the Noah's Ark at that time. And the whole experience, I felt like the kid in the movie Life is Beautiful, where the parent, the kid thought, right, that he was playing just a game, and inside such negative and dark things that were happening, traumatic experiences in the outside, he was he was living in a surreal, right, reality. And so that's the way I felt with the cruise and everything, because aside privileged enough to go on a cruise with everything paid and like if nothing, right? Here I was, in what I had lived, right, in those days, and my kids also had lived, and here we were going on this cruise with everything paid, and so it was, everything was, and everything aligned itself so that we were safe, and how I was to trust, right, this path. Eh, and so I did, and I passed that test. And then right after that one, in 2018, early 2018, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And that's even more, right? More. And so, how are you gonna handle this one? Let's see. And so I put to practice every single piece of knowledge about energy and biology that I had and been taught, and how to work with myself and with my body, right? And by I was told that I had to go undergo surgery. So I said yes, okay, let's do the surgery. And but I knew all the time and trusted that everything was gonna turn perfectly. And I started, up to that date, started working with myself and with my energy field and with my chakras, and starting to heal my emotional body, right? And all my vibration and cleaning, and doing inner child work and shadow work. And as I did this, writing, right, writing, and journaling about all this. And my surgery was scheduled for the 8th of November of 2018. And also was a surreal event. I was the last one to be operated on, although I was the first one to get into the surgery ward, that morning. So I got to speak to so many other people that were waiting to be operated on. But I knew that everything was gonna be fine. And yes, a 6-hour operation, 6 hour, lasted 6 hours, surgery. And they after my surgery, I was brought, I was told I had to stay my home for a month and a half, a recuperation, right? Because I had a total hysterectomy. And and so I was told, during this time, since I was alone, total alone, in silence, they even turn that volume, that spiritual volume, even to a higher level. And I started there to receive all this knowledge about how to deal with my body, how to heal my body, how to work with my body. Um, and so I put it into practice. And by the time that I had to go back to be told what my post operative treatment was going to be, what my post-operative treatment was going to be about, the doctor, after doing a lot of tests, right, and it tells me, Vanessa, I don't know what happened. I'm happy to tell you that I don't need to see you here, not as a patient anymore, any longer. uh, you're totally cured. You don't have to receive any radiotherapy or chemotherapy of any kind. If you want to come and visit me, that's fine, but not as a patient. And so I knew it, and truly thankful for all the knowledge. And now, well, and then after that, immediately, basically like 4 months or 6 months after, they thought, okay, well, now you've passed, so now it's not going to be about you, because you have learned all this, to put it in practice and teach other people. Write the book. That's where I was shared when I underwent another powerful STE like the first one. And I was shared that this has not happened to me, uh, just because, just for only for me, that I had lived these experiences, so that I would be, and I was being trained so that I could help others heal and understand this language in the same way I had done it. And so I had to write a book about my experience, which I have written, but it's an unpublished book, and it's called Chase Your Soul, eh, about this experience and the insight, all this knowledge, right? All this healing knowledge and energy knowledge that I have been shared and blessed with, uh, so that others can learn about it also and apply it in their lives in the same way I have, and so that their lives would be blessed, also blessed. So, yes, it is an unpublished book because it has been very difficult. I have written before as a public relationist. Yes, I had the opportunity to write for different newspapers and all that, but never a book. And I had never published a book. So I opened this forum, right? I extend I'm looking for searching for publishing company that is interested in my story and that finds it and the insight that I've been shared, so that uh, it can be shared into the world. And so, meanwhile, what I've been sharing about through my Facebook community, Evo Life 360, and also through my YouTube channel, also called in the same way, Evo Life 360, where I do lives and I share about all these different spiritual and energy, about the energy, right? And how science and spirituality come together into one, and how to master this language, this energetic language. Uh, and also, well, coach people how to understand. I help them wake up, see their divinity, and wake up and connect, right? And understand. I help them see the purpose behind what they have lived also, and the value, the huge value it has to their soul, so that they can wake up and start investing in themselves in the same way I have done it. Eh, so immensely privileged and feel definitely blessed beyond words, right? Uh, to be given this purpose, and to whom I am in this mission totally compromised. And my life has totally been changed, literally, because before, previous to this, as I said, I was an entrepreneur. And my business was about, marketing, public relations, events planning, and also interior design, because I am in design, interior designer. But nothing like this, right? An events designer also, and nothing to do with this new path that I am aligning with, because and I know, and I was told, right? I was given this mission and purpose, and for this, well, I now live, basically. Uh, so very blessed, very blessed, very
Very
blessed.
blessed indeed, and so inspiring. Your story is so profound and powerful. Thank you for sharing that. YouTube or Facebook is the best way for the viewers to reach out to you.
Yes, and my email also, Evo Life altogether, Evo Life 360 altogether at gmail.com. That's our email. Yeah. So anybody that wants to reach out, yes, more than happy to help in any way I can. Yes, sure.
Thank you. And if you had one message that you would hope the audience would take away from this powerful and profound experience that you had, what would it be?
Well, I'm gonna pass it on as it was given unto me. I really hope and that all humanity, doesn't matter who you are, what you've lived, gone through, doesn't matter. Okay, you are a divine being, a divine soul. You And whether you believe what I'm telling you tonight, you are by this virtue empowered always, every single second, to become the highest that you can be and create that, use that divinity within you to reach without any limit anything you want to reach, anything you want to achieve, anything you want to become. And don't ever let your circumstances trick you into believing that you are less than that, because you're not. You're not. We are all part of this divine, and we are always, and we're always meant to be empowered to create heaven on earth. We don't have to wait till we die to experience that. We can do it together. We can do it. So that's my message.
What a beautiful message, and one that can be very life changing.
It has been for me. It has been for me. So I share it. I share it. That's my message to the world. Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for your time,
Oh,
for your
thank you. Yeah.
sharing. It's just been a beautiful experience for me, and I know that my audience will appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I really hope that it touches the heart of every single person that watches it. So thank you for the job, for what you're doing, for your story, your powerful story, and for what you're doing for the world, definitely. Because it is because people like you that these experiences are being shared more and more each day, and it is needed. So you are contributing and you are aligning with that purpose, with that divine purpose that you have. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
That means a lot to me. Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.